Hey there friends, welcome back. I'm Shannon and I am a painter, and today I'm inviting you to paint with me. I am super inspired by artists who take the time to video their process and kind of talk their way through, so that is what I'm hoping to do here, so you know what to expect. If it's your first time joining me, I just want to say welcome and thanks for tuning in. And if you've watched my previous videos, you know it's been a little bit since I've recorded and posted up here. I actually did a video 2 weeks ago when I was starting my first really big painting, and it took a long time, and I was talking my way through it, and it just kind of became this overwhelming mountain of a project to make this video. And I also ended up working on it at night and not recording basically the whole second half of the process. So I made the really difficult decision to scrap that video and start fresh today. I wanted to share a little bit about my space where I work. I live in a condo, so I don't have a lot of room, but I designated this front corner next to a window where I have everything set up and ready to go for me to work every day. I work from home. I have one of my little ones home with me right now while he's on break from preschool, and I have an older daughter who is in elementary school. We live in Connecticut. Right now it's freezing cold outside, end of January. We are potentially expecting a blizzard this weekend. So just to kind of set the mood of where we are and what our days kind of look like, we spend a lot of time inside, snuggled up under blankets, reading, listening to music, watching movies, and painting. So today I am going to be working on a 9x12 piece of mixed media paper, which you can see here. I did a 9x12 yesterday that was inspired by a photograph that a friend shared on Facebook that I just thought was so beautiful and magical. It was of the Connecticut shoreline at sunset, and the beach, the sand and the shells and the rocks, everything was pink and just glowing and warm and gorgeous. So I did this painting yesterday that I will show you here. It was a lot of fun. I didn't go in with any sort of plan. I was getting frustrated towards the middle because I kind of wanted to make it a bit more soothing, and I'm finding that I see art that I enjoy and appreciate, but the way that I work and create is just very different from that. So instead of trying to make it something that it's not, I'm learning to go with the flow of my own process. So that was a lot of fun. Very warm tones, very pink. I don't work with pink a lot, and I really loved it. Like, it just made me happy. So I'm gonna be working on this today. I'm gonna tape it to my board, which I will show you, and gonna do a layer of gesso paint, which basically seals the paper surface, so you can apply layer upon layer upon layer, and the paper isn't going to get wet. Sometimes when you work on paper with wet paint, the paper just gets flimsy and crumbles, but the gesso basically creates a seal so that you can paint on top of it and not worry about your paint or your paper, I'm sorry, and not worry about your paper getting wet. So that is the first step. And I also just wanted to show you real quick. All right, so this is my space here. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen pictures of this little corner. It's literally the front corner of my living room. So this is a hutch that came from my in-laws that I designated as my art space, and I just kind of put a lot of stuff on here that inspires me and that I enjoy looking at, things that are special to me. And right in front of me, I'll just kind of show you the tools that I work with all the time. This is called a paint puck. It was definitely an Instagram targeted ad that hooked me. So I asked for it for Christmas and I got one. It has these awesome nubs on the inside so you can wipe your brushes off when you clean them. so you can get the excess water off. If you look down the bottom, there's these other rubbery nubs sticking up that you can swish your brush around and it pulls the paint out of your brush. And then all of these ones on the sides, you can hang up your brushes, and this little drip tray catches any water. So that helps keep things clean. Over here, this is a paint pad, a palette pad of paper that has a smooth, glossy surface on it. So you can use this as your palette, and then when the paint dries, when you're done, you can just peel it off. This I don't even bother peeling off because it's so thin, but you can just layer upon layer upon layer until you're tired of using that sheet, and then you can tear it off and use a fresh one. These are earrings that are a work in progress, and I have some more over here. I really love painting jewelry, and I decided instead of doing it separate from my regular painting process, I decided to paint them as I am painting a piece of art, so that I can use the paint that's left over on my brushes instead of getting my paint puck completely saturated with leftover paint. I use it on the earrings and just kind of create little unique one-of-a-kind pieces that pull in colors that I've been working with on my current art pieces. So that's a fun extension of my art and my business. I think a lot of people maybe enjoy shopping for jewelry, but not necessarily looking for wall art. So that's like a fun little way to support my art and my business. So I'm gonna get going on this. I'm gonna set up my camera over my right shoulder, and the light changes early in the afternoon. So you might see the light start to turn into like the slats of the sun shining through the window here. It makes it a little tricky to record video in the afternoon when I do want to be painting, but you know, we're gonna go with it. And also, just in case you're wondering, yes, this is a big old case full of my husband's figurines, his action figures, his superheroes. He is a collector of comic books and general geekery. So that's just a fun little thing to have next to me. I sometimes pretend they're my little art guardians, being like, hey, get back to work. Stop getting distracted. Which is another thing that I will talk about as I go. So I am actually going to switch over to listening to music so I can just focus on painting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to record over the video later and probably speed it up, probably double time, just so it goes a little bit quicker, and talk you through the process and share some of the things that I think about while I'm painting, some of the decisions that I make, and share a little bit about what's going on in my life that might be interesting. And I really hope you enjoy this. So thanks for watching. All right, let's get going. All right, so here I am taping the paper to the artboard so I have a nice smooth surface to work on. And I'm adding that gesso acrylic medium to create that first layer that will seal the paper and make it so that I can apply a lot of layers of paint to this one sheet of paper. You can see that it does kind of bubble and curl a little bit here. That doesn't really bother me as I'm working. And once the painting is finished, I can either frame it or flatten it between a couple books or something. But you know, paper does curl a little bit naturally when you're painting on it. So I want to share about my inspiration for this piece, and as the video goes, I'll point out some techniques and tools that I use and little decisions that I made along the way. So this first thing that I'm doing is using a China marker to mark the paper into thirds. So compositionally, you might hear the rule of thirds. It's just a way of dividing something visually so that it appeals to the eye. our eyes kind of travel around a picture or a painting, looking at different areas at a time. You typically wouldn't go from one edge of the paper to the complete opposite edge of the paper. So by making these marks, I'm just kind of loosening up my brain a little bit to get over the fact that I had a blank white piece of paper in front of me, and also giving myself kind of an idea of the different areas I want to work with as the painting goes. So this piece, I was listening to music. I built a playlist. I've been actually making a couple of playlists lately of songs that I really enjoy painting to. They're either very calming or upbeat. I listen to a lot of classical and jazz and classic rock. I also love a lot of folk music, all sorts of stuff. And this day in particular, I had asked people on my Facebook page to tell me what their favorite songs were that are comforting and they never get tired of, like the kind of song that when it comes on, it just feels like home, like you'll always just sit and listen to it and enjoy it. So I actually ended up with a really great playlist with some songs that I knew and a lot of songs that I wasn't particularly familiar with. And one of the inspiring pieces of this painting today was listening to Taylor Swift's newer version of her Red album. I really enjoyed listening to her remakes of these albums. I just think it's brilliant that she took back her power and her art in this way. And I honestly just really like these later versions a lot better. They're more mature sounding and just you can sense the experience that she has had in her life since the initial recordings came out. So I knew that I wanted to use red as my primary color for this painting. I put it down first because I knew that I would layer a lot on top of it and I didn't want it to be really heavy. Red can quickly and easily become very overpowering just by nature of the boldness of it and the emotional response you might get from looking at a painting that has red in it. I also didn't want it to look like a crime scene happened, you have to be very careful with red paint. I, in particular, would not choose to make red a drippy color. Like every now and then I like to add drips to my art, and I usually go for blues when I do that and not red because I just wouldn't want someone to look at my art and associate it with blood or gore or anything disturbing. So I really wanted this piece to capture femininity and empowerment and joy and celebration. Especially this past year and the past couple months, I've really been doing a lot of work on myself and my art and kind of rediscovering what makes me happy and how I want to live my life in a way that feels true to me and fulfilling and joyful, even with the difficulties that we face as humans, as women, as mothers, as artists. I really wanted to express this feeling of gratitude and warmth and happiness that I've been feeling lately. And to kind of set the tone for this time of year, it's the end of January. I'm looking out the window right now on a Friday afternoon, and the snow is gently falling. It looks like a snow globe out there, like a Charlie Brown Christmas. And we're actually expecting to get a lot of snow tomorrow. We might be getting like a blizzard. But January in general in Connecticut and New England can be kind of dark and sad and gray looking and feeling. So kind of that midwinter sadness, I wanted to kind of fight against it. Not fight against it. That's not the word I'm really looking for, but counteract maybe by using these warmer colors that might even evoke a feeling of like Valentine's Day, or if you are into birthstones and gemstones, garnet is the birthstone for January, which is my mother and my sister's birth month. So I always kind of lean towards these warm, deep reds this time of year. So with this piece, it was so funny. This beginning stage, I really wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted it to feel like. I knew that it was important for me to put the red down first, as well as the black, so that I could layer on top of those. So the depth and the boldness would be there, but they wouldn't be heavy and distracting. So I knew that I was going to add a lot of white and this creamy, warm color in order to keep it light. And then also this little surprise right here, I intentionally decided to use this phthalo turquoise to add some drips and some other accent points in the piece to complement the red, so it wouldn't be all warm colors. I knew I wanted at least something cool in there that would make the warm tones stand out even more. I just thought this turquoise with the crimson red looked so beautiful together. I love working with different colors. One of my favorite classes in college was actually color and design, which was all about just studying colors and how they relate to each other. When you put two colors next to each other, how your perception, how your eye perceives those colors, and how that changes if you put other colors next to them. It's very fun and interesting. But yeah, I love adding these drips in. I did that early on in the piece so that, again, like the black and the red, I could put more paint on top of them. So it became part of the background, little interesting pieces that you'll see with more paint applied on top later. But again, carrying your eye in a certain direction. Another thing that I did on this piece that I don't normally do is using a limited palette. I picked out just a couple colors, this crimson, the turquoise, black and cream, and then that more magenta color, because I did want it to overall stay warm. When you look at a lot of my art, I tend to use the whole spectrum. So I did want to limit the color palette here, but also adding some darker and lighter shades of the crimson. So here I mixed the crimson with a black that I have that gave it kind of like a deep burgundy. Not quite a saturated color though, so it complements, but it doesn't distract, and adds movement throughout the piece. And here, another intentional addition is this gold that I really love to use. I just think it adds this magical feeling to my pieces that are very interesting. And when I use it in this beginning to middle stage, it becomes part of the layers that draws you in. But again, it's not sitting on top of the final piece. Figuring out ways to layer in these colors and these marks so that they work together to create this overall cohesive feeling instead of these individual areas that might completely pull your focus. So moving the gold around a little bit in different spots. And then this little trick here I learned from another painter on YouTube, using a blow dryer, because I'm a little bit impatient, but also I applied a lot of paint in these first beginning stages, the black and the red in particular. I applied very thick onto the paper, and it takes a while for it to dry down enough to put paint on top and not get so much blending. When you want to add more layers of a solid color without blending what's already on there, you need to let it dry. So using a blow dryer like that is just a little trick to speed things along. So when I am in a time crunch for painting like this one, I had about an hour to work on it start to finish. Every minute counts, especially when you have a little one at home who might need you to pause and help him find a show or a book or a Lego that he's looking for. So the piece is starting to look really heavy, and towards the end, I very intentionally add a lot more white and that cream to it to really brighten it up. When you look at the art that I created in the past year, I fully embrace the fact that I love using a lot of color and having these very standout, vibrant pieces. But going forward, I also wanted to challenge myself to use the colors in a way that is still interesting and bold and exciting, but not like a solid block of colors, having these lighter areas and these darker areas to really push myself to explore different compositions. I've kind of been describing my work lately as dreamscapes, which just really connected with me through talking to someone on Instagram that, I might start with an idea or a feeling or a picture of a place that I know or that I want to go and kind of playing with the colors and the shapes and the feeling of like the atmosphere of a place. But then, within the world of creating an abstract, letting it kind of become an intuitive process where I have these ideas that I start with, but then I just kind of go and let the marks and the colors become whatever they're going to become. And sometimes that's influenced by the music I'm listening to. Sometimes it's influenced by my mood or the weather outside. There's so many things that might change the course of a painting. And what I really love about the abstract is that I can really just create something that I connect with, that really comes from a place of intuition and heart and soul. But whatever I might have in mind when I look at it is completely different from what someone else might have in mind. So I really encourage you. When I was in college, I kind of felt like an imposter in my art classes. I was a theater kid, I was a music kid, and art kind of just called to me, but I didn't have the knowledge and the art history and the terminology to feel like I could talk about art. So whenever I was sitting in class and asked about something, I just didn't really know how to talk about it. So whenever I went to a museum or something, I just kind of didn't know how to enjoy art. I didn't know that I could simply enjoy it for whatever reason I felt. So I just really want to encourage you, when you're looking at art, if you're thinking about painting, don't feel like it has to be a certain way, that it has to look a certain way, that it has to follow anyone else's style. It's really simply about how it makes you feel. Do you connect with it? Do you connect with the colors? Do you connect with the energy? And it can be as simple as I like it or I don't like it. I brought some art home recently that my husband looked at and he immediately was like, oh no, this can't be in the house. I don't like this. And his connection with it was completely different from how I connected to it, which is very interesting. But one of the things that I do want to talk about on this channel is just how to enjoy art, how to find ways of connecting and appreciating with what you see. Because that's powerful. You put 30 people in a room with a painting and ask them to write down how it makes them feel. You're going to read 30 different things. especially if you ask them how it makes them feel and why. That's when you get to it. So here's where I'm adding a lot more white to really brighten the piece. Take away some of the heavier bits and some of the messier bits that I didn't want. You know, every now and then I might overwork an area a little bit and it just feels like it doesn't belong. So part of my process with this piece is challenging myself to really look at those areas and be okay with covering them up. Sometimes you might cover up a spot and be like, oh, I really liked that. I have some regrets. No, you know, it's all part of the process. And at the end of the day, at the very least, when I sit down to paint, I want to have fun. Yes, it is healing and meditative and calming and expressive, but, you know, we have this one life to enjoy, and I truly believe that when you find something that you enjoy doing, you should go after it. Whether it's painting or crocheting or reading or whatever it is that sets your heart on fire and makes you happy, I 100% encourage you to follow that. And if you can do that as your job, as your work, which might be a little complicated, but also like that can be a great thing. So one of the things I wanted to share, a couple things I wanted to share. I recently, this month, hung up my first installation at a local business here in town. I have 12 of my paintings from this past year hanging at a massage and wellness spa, and they are going to be on display until the end of March. And I have a couple other potential displays that'll be going up in the next couple months as well. So I'll share about those here. And let's see, the holiday season, I spent a lot of time painting ornaments, and I'm going to be doing that again this year, but I actually ordered as many ornaments as I could around the holidays to have on hand so I could paint them throughout the year. And then those will be going into my shop in the fall. So if you saw my ornaments kind of in passing, they did go quickly. So I have about 75 blank ornaments that I'm going to be painting this year and putting them all in my shop at the same time. And when they're gone, they're gone. And that'll be that for ornaments. It was really fun to do that. And again, I really like doing these different things that, you know, I'm painting, I'm using my creativity and doing something that I love, even if it's not painting, you know, on a canvas or paper or wood panel, being able to stretch my creativity in these different ways. And also by making smaller things that, you know, people might enjoy and want to support my work in different ways. So by doing the earrings and bracelets and ornaments, it's kind of just more different pieces to the overall puzzle. So here I'm adding some splatters to add some texture. I just load up the end of the brush with a lot of paint and tap it with my finger really hard. And wherever it goes, it goes. Between the drips and the splatters, those are two ways of really adding some fun texture and movement. But also be prepared to handle the mess. Make sure you have some cloths and some splash zone. I like to use microfiber cloths for my drips and cleanup and wiping my brushes instead of using a ton of paper towels. The microfiber towels last a really long time. I've been using the same ones for 2 years. So just to give you an idea. So I just had to pause and get a little drink of water. This is actually the third time I've attempted to record this voiceover. I recorded the video yesterday and tried to record in my car last night while my daughter was in her dance class. But the car was running, the heat was on, my son was playing on the iPad in the back seat. It was just kind of a disaster. So I tried to record again this morning and kept getting interrupted. So here we are. Third time's the charm. I did want to share one more thing that might be interesting and important to this channel and just my art in general, is that in the past couple months, I started taking medication for anxiety and ADHD. So I started the anxiety medication in October. I had just noticed over the past couple years having a major uptick in anxiety and how it got in the way of me being able to function and think things through and move throughout my day, to the point where it was really getting in my way, working at home and parenting. So I had a really great conversation with my doctor about it and, started that in October. And thankfully, it's the kind of thing where so many people are talking about this now and sharing about it that it really helped me not feel like there was a stigma. It helped empower me to bring it up. And it was just such a relief to talk about, because I think in general, women tend to hold these things in and just say, oh, I'll push through, I'll power through, I just got to get through today. But when that starts to be every day, it helps to get an opinion and professional help and medication. So I started taking that, and I've just been feeling a lot better about, the things that would normally throw me for a loop for an hour or a day or a week have felt more manageable and, not as stressful and distracting. So just to pop back into what's going on here, I'm using neocolor crayons to add some smaller marks throughout the art. I use colors that are also the same colors as my paints so that they kind of go together but add just a different kind of texture. They're kind of like crayons when you draw on the surface, but then since they're water soluble, you can apply water or paint over them and it kind of moves the color around. Makes a little bit of a watercolor effect. It's just a different tool that I enjoy using. Sorry about that. So another bit about the anxiety is around the same time I brought up that I was concerned about having ADHD, which is, another thing that I've seen so many people talking about and sharing their experiences and memes, that I said, oh, well, every time I see something, it's very relatable. I feel like this is me and what's going on in my head. So again, bringing that up to my doctor, I was nervous that it was, just all in my head, not real, or, not that big a deal. And she actually started me on a medication, which 2 weeks ago, I noticed a very, very quick difference. All the noise in my head, all the distractions, what felt like a circus with tornadoes blowing through and these lightning strikes of thoughts that would distract me, but then immediately go out of my head. All of that was just kind of quiet and really just helped me to be able to go through my day and focus on one thing at a time and get things done and feel confident. That, sometimes our brains just need help. Sometimes we need medication or tools in our tool belt that, help us be able to do the things that we want to do. So that's been a really important thing to me lately, that I wanted to share here because it has affected how I approach my creativity, I think, and it's just kind of given me the confidence to explore my creativity and be open in talking about this and sharing about my journey, because for a long time I thought there was something wrong with me, that it was just me being lazy and unmotivated and unable to focus and get things done. So if that's the kind of thing that you've maybe found that you relate to or it sounds familiar, maybe talk about it with your doctor, because it was certainly helpful to me to hear other people's experiences, to feel like it was something I could confidently, or at least out of curiosity, bring up and discuss. And it turns out that a lot of things in my life have become really clear and make sense now, in a good way, in a really good way. So I'll kind of share a little bit more about that here and there as these videos go. So here I'm really just adding the final touches of color, just adding in a little bit more red and that magenta. I went back in and added some more white to some of those areas to just kind of clean them up a little bit. And this one is just about done. Thank you for being here today and sticking it out through this video. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of fun with these. I am going to work on getting a better setup where the video is more directly above the artboard so that you can get a really good view as I'm working. I did take a couple of videos here so you can see a little bit more in detail and straight on what the art looks like. You get a much better feel for the colors and how they interact together. And if you did enjoy this and want to see more of my videos, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the like and the bell so you get notifications when I have new videos. I am planning on doing a lot more of these more frequently. I have a lot of fun with it, and I do believe that sharing is caring, and that if you're interested in painting or the creative process, we have a lot to learn from each other. And hopefully in sharing even just these small bits of my journey and my perspective, maybe hopefully it'll inspire you to get creative in whatever way you enjoy. If you want to see more of my work or hear from me a little bit more frequently, you can go to the link in the description below to my website, which is shannon-sorensen.com. There is a pop-up for an email subscription. I like to send emails usually on Mondays once a week, just with some inspiration, some interesting things that I have either made or seen during the week, and also just some little studio updates in case you miss a post on social media or here on YouTube. It's kind of like an all-in-one place to see what I've worked on throughout the week. Here you can get a really nice view of just how impactful having that clean border edge. It just makes the whole piece feel so cohesive and clean. I used to paint all the way out to the edge, and then when I discovered, taping off this border, it just was a complete game changer in the overall look of a finished piece. If you want to see some of my day-to-day postings and thoughts and pictures, some behind-the-scenes stuff going on either with my artwork or family life or, day-to-day as an artist, I am very active over on Instagram. You can follow me at Shannon Sorensen Art. There is also a link below in the description. And let me know if you follow me over there because you saw this video. I would love to hear from you. I think that's really great any way that we can connect and learn from each other and ask questions. It's a beautiful thing, especially during this time where sometimes we feel a bit isolated. Any way that you can connect with others is a great thing. So here I'm just adding my little signature down the corner. I'm going to blend it in a little bit so it doesn't just look like it got plopped on there. I think it's kind of a fun way to make it feel like it's part of the art, not just a stamp. And that is it for this piece. I still need to name it. Sometimes that's the hardest part, but something will come to me, either a word or a phrase or a part of a song that maybe feels right for the piece. Or I might just give it a generic Dreamscape number 3. but keep an eye out for that. I really just want to say thank you for watching. Again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join me for future videos. I really look forward to doing this again soon. I'm so grateful you were here with me today. I hope you have a beautiful day ahead and see you next time.